And you mentioned before that there were phases where investors from the US were mostly selling, whereas Europe was buying. Can you explain us more what's behind that dynamic?
Yeah, I always find that quite difficult to understand, but we've really, more than often would say we've had quite a clear line between the US buying and the Europe selling. And UK falls between the two, actually. It's always treated as a slightly different market to Europe, mainland Europe, and to the US. But certainly I would say the US very much more aggressive in the market in terms of buying the side pockets, the illiquid assets at deep discounts compared to the Europeans, who are a little bit more conservative with a small c in terms of what they buy. It is not the same mentality at all in terms of what we see within the secondary market, that's for sure. We've just been through a very dark period where, as I say, particularly if you took the fund-of-fund model, we saw such a mismatch between the liquidity that the fund-of-fund gave their investors and a lot of their underlying assets. If a hedge fund now, decides to launch itself and to keep money and stability within the fund, which you can understand them needing to do, that they make it less liquid for investors. Investors go in, but in a way, the secondary market can give them a level of comfort to know that, in fact, they could trade out that position if they needed to.
Lindsey, what else is new on the secondary markets? What do you see happening?
What we have seen recently, or particularly in the last 12 months, is interest from the private equity sector, looking at buying hedge fund positions, or in some cases looking at buying the underlying assets of the hedge funds, which is something that's been very new for us. We have actually traded private equity positions. It's not our primary business, but we have actually traded the private equity positions. But as I say, what has been interesting, and we've seen the development particularly out of the UK and the US, the interest from that asset class.
And what particularly are they looking for, the private equity investors?
Well, they're looking obviously at opportunities because they don't have the same liquidity constraints that most hedge fund investors have. They can take very much the long view. They also have understood quite quickly that some of the hedge funds have invested in some more quasi-private equity, what we would see as quasi-private equity positions. So they see themselves moving in and being able to acquire those assets, which they can manage because that's their specific space. And as I say, they see opportunities. But what we as a company have found interesting is that the two asset classes are separated by a huge gulf in terms of not knowing each other and vice versa.